1927. A Peruvian archaeologist named Toribio Mejia Chespe is hiking through the foothills above a desert in southern Peru. He looks down and freezes. Carved into the ground below him, lines, straight ones, massive ones, running for miles in every direction. He has no idea what he's looking at. Neither, it turns out, does anyone else. Not for the next 100 years. Fly over this stretch of Peruvian desert today and you'll see it for yourself. Over 800 straight lines, around 300 geometric shapes, and nearly 70 massive drawings of animals and plants. A hummingbird, a monkey, a spider, some stretching longer than a football field. They were carved by removing dark, oxidized stones from the desert surface, exposing the pale ground underneath. Simple, precise, and nearly invisible from the ground. You can only really see them from the air, which raises the first obvious problem. The people who made these lines didn't have aircraft. The Nazca people lived and farmed this desert between roughly 200 BCE and 650 AD, centuries before the Inca Empire even existed. They had no writing system we've ever found, no hot air balloons, no planes. And yet, somehow, they created art that only makes sense from a vantage point they could never have had. So, the case is open. Who did this, and why? 4 suspects. Let's hear each one make their case. The first theory comes with a name attached, Maria Reiche, a German mathematician who devoted over 40 years of her life camping in this desert, measuring lines by hand. Her claim, the lines were a giant astronomical calendar. That certain lines point toward where the sun rises on the solstice, that some of the animal figures mirror constellations in the night sky. For decades, she was the loudest voice in the room. She even lived in a small house near the lines, guarding them from vehicles that threatened to destroy them. But in 1967, an astrophysicist named Gerald Hawkins ran the actual numbers, checking whether the lines lined up with celestial events the way Reiche claimed. His finding: no meaningful correlation. The stars mostly didn't match. Reiche's theory isn't dead, but it's wounded. The second theory doesn't care about the sky at all, it cares about who's watching from above. This theory holds that the lines were never meant for human eyes. They were offerings, visible only to the gods, who could see them from the heavens. Here's what makes this one hold up better than you'd expect. Archaeologists have found broken pottery and ceremonial objects buried right along the lines, offerings deliberately left behind. This wasn't art for art's sake. This looks like ritual. But a newer theory complicates things further. Some of these lines show worn, compacted soil, the kind of wear you'd only get from repeated foot traffic, which means at least for some lines, people weren't just looking at them from a distance, they were walking them. This theory suggests the lines functioned as sacred processional paths, routes walked during rituals, honoring gods or ancestors, the geoglyph itself becoming a kind of pilgrimage. Interesting problem though, this explains some lines. Not the giant hummingbird, not the spider. You can't easily walk a shape and experience it as a shape from the ground. Here's the strangest theory, and one of the most recent. Researchers David Johnson and Donald Prules proposed that many of the trapezoid-shaped lines actually point towards something invisible, underground water. Their claim: the width of certain lines matches the width of underground fault zones, the exact places where groundwater collects beneath this bone-dry desert. If they're right, this wasn't art, or ritual, or astronomy. It was a map, a working, functional map, for finding water in one of the driest places on Earth. The theory is controversial. Johnson used a method called dowsing to locate some of these underground faults, a practice many scientists consider unproven pseudoscience, which means this theory might be right for the wrong reasons, or wrong entirely. And then there's the theory that refuses to go away, no matter how thoroughly it's been debunked. In 1968, a Swiss author named Erich von Däniken published a book claiming the Nazca Lines were landing strips built for ancient astronauts, aliens. Actual archaeologists, including Reiche herself, spent years pushing back against this claim directly, pointing out that the ground is far too soft and uneven to function as any kind of runway. The theory has essentially zero support among researchers, but it refuses to die because it's the version most people have actually heard of. Here's a twist most people don't know. The case isn't closed. It's still actively being investigated right now in 2026. Researchers using drone footage and AI image recognition have identified over 50 new geoglyphs in just the past few years, designs so faint they're invisible to the human eye at ground level, revealed only by machine learning trained to spot patterns in the sand. Which means every single theory we just heard was built on an incomplete picture. There could be another 100 lines still hidden out there, and with them, maybe the actual answer. So, who's guilty? Astronomy, religion, ritual walking, water mapping? Here's the uncomfortable truth. It's probably not one answer. It might be all four, made by different people for different lines, over 800 years of continuous use. The Nazca Lines weren't necessarily built with one single purpose in mind any more than every building in a modern city serves the same function. The case remains open. And somewhere out in that desert, hidden lines are still waiting for someone or something to find them.